Etc.
Indeed. Okay. I think I might have got a level there. I don't know.
I don't know if that was a particularly useful level.
Not a very particularly useful level at all. No.
I was somewhat restraining myself actually, but yeah. There we go. I guess.
Okay. How do we do this? I can't remember. It's been so long.
It's been 2 weeks.
It has.
2 whole weeks.
All right. Let's see if we can do this.
Colin had a problem and a microphone to spare. Thomas took it up and so the podcast went to air. For weeks and months they trolled through every single DVD. They've unwrapped all the ones they can and now they're cellulose free. Now they're cellulose free.
Hello, dear listener, and welcome to Cellulose Free. My name is Colin, and with me, as always, is my fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Eric.
Hello, I am Eric.
No, see, I've forgotten how to do it. It has been 2 weeks.
Oh, did you want someone else?
My fellow film watcher, compadre and son, Thomas.
Oh, okay, I'll go get him. Hi, hello.
It's been too long, Thomas. but we really did need the break, I think.
Yeah. Last week was not good.
It was a sort of a collision of all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I was recognising that I was 1 year older.
Mm-hmm.
And at my age, that is not necessarily a happy time.
Mm-hmm.
So I became morose and melancholy.
Mm-hmm. And
you were asleep.
I was sort of groggy from a poor sleep schedule that I still haven't kicked out of. I am very much nocturnal at the moment.
Just a warning so that you can pencil it into your calendars. Work out when next year's Tour de France is happening, and then recognise that any episode that does come out during the period of the Tour de France is going to be substandard. I don't tend to watch it. Thomas, you...
I do.
Absorb it like a sponge.
Maybe on the flat bits I might wander off, do something else, but...
Yeah.
Come back for the end.
Keep in mind that in Australia, where this podcast is being recorded, it's late at night, early in the morning.
Especially the Paris stage, which doesn't start until the day after.
Yes. So I don't tend to watch it. My wife does. and so I become a Tour de France widower. That being said, I also have a great deal of difficulty allowing my mind to fall asleep without my soulmate in the bed next to me. So I'm doomed, even though I don't watch the Tour de France. I tend to pick up other things to watch and, yeah.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Indeed. So was it worth it this year?
Yeah. This was a strong tour. Bit high on the people crashing out or leaving the tour side, but part of that might be because the Olympics have... Well, it's day -2 now when some of the sports start.
Yep. Dare I ask, is baseball an Olympic sport?
Baseball is not an Olympic sport.
So we can't talk about it.
Jazz. That's all I have to say about it.
Jazz.
Yep.
Good.
Jazz.
Look it up.
Just makes weather happen.
Speaking of weather, the Tour de France certainly had some.
Yep.
And the Olympics are going to have some in the form of pestilence. It's
oysters. An invasion of oysters.
An invasion of, yes. Japan is notorious for the... do we have on our list anywhere any Japanese monster movies?
I don't know.
I don't think we do. Maybe we should remedy that. Not giant monsters. I think they're going to be somewhat subjected to tiny little monsters. We hope it goes well. Anything else that you have been up to that you wish to raise?
Well, I've been in the house, in various rooms, and that's...
We'll put a map of the house in the show notes.
Yeah, I've been in this room, and the one next to it, and a few of the ones down the hall, but nowhere else really. I
am not going to put a map of the house in the show notes, but to put some perspective in, there are 8 people living in this house. There is one bathroom.
Yes.
I should point out that is a separate bathroom to the toilet. So the toilet is a separate room that doesn't have taps, so to wash one's hands, you then need to go into the bathroom and wash your hands. So it is not a large house. There are 4 bedrooms. And the walls close in a little bit.
I have one of those bedrooms.
Yes, you are spoilt.
Others are not so lucky. Some make do with half or...
Yes,
a third.
Yes, those bedrooms are quite small, and they have been made smaller still by various apparatus, making little private areas for most of them, but very small.
Probably for the best that I have a room to myself, given my sleep schedule and use of the computer.
That's right. I should say that if we were to watch Das Boot... we would not feel claustrophobic. This house at times does feel very much like living in a U-boat, especially the corridor. There is one corridor that goes down the length of the house. And
it's just barely wide enough for 2 people to pass each other if there weren't a vacuum cleaner, some various detritus, and some bookshelves containing DVDs lining the walls.
Yes. There's some insight into our lives. I don't think I need to go into my week. Other than the fact, and you don't know this, but, or at least I don't think you know this, I went to see Black Widow the other day.
Right. I've not seen it.
No, you have not. The one and only theatre... sorry, that's not true. That's not entirely true. There is a small independent theatre that is no longer particularly independent.
No.
But it is not owned by Village Roadshow, is it?
No.
Okay, so Village Roadshow owns pretty much all of the...
All 4 in the state?
Yes, and they have a rewards card. And when you take the tribe off to the rare occasional movie screening, you rack up a number of points.
You do?
To the extent where I had a free movie ticket on the card ready to go. And then COVID hit, and there's no way that I was going anywhere near a cinema.
And so they extended the expiry of the points.
Yep. But then, out of the blue, things are well and truly opened up here in Tasmania. We have dodged numerous bullets, touch wood. It is only a matter of time before...
Despite my rant in the last episode,
that's right.
I am still concerned.
I am still very much concerned, yes. Most of the country is again in lockdown, and our borders are closed to most of the mainland states. We're an island state of Australia, and... Anyway, getting back to these Village Roadshow points. So I have been able to go to the cinema for numerous months, but because of studio shutdowns and what have you, there's been very little that's come out at the cinema that I was prepared to actually sit in a cinema to watch, because I'm still a bit paranoid about that. They came out with an email about a month ago saying, we're not going to tell you what's going on, but we suggest that you use your points as quickly as possible. And you've got till July 27th to do so. And
then we're changing all of how it works.
All of how it works, but we're not telling you how that works, whether anything rolls over or anything like that. Their suggestion was, we suggest you use them. And then Black Widow came along, and I thought, I'll sneak off and watch that on my own with 30 other people in the cinema. I'm not going to discuss anything about the film other than say it is a Marvel film.
Yeah.
Not your typical Marvel film, but it is a Marvel film. You have to keep that firmly in your mind when the closing credits start. 20 of those 30 people did not keep that in mind and left as soon as the credits started. I don't think I need to elaborate anymore.
No.
Other than the fact that at the very, very end of the closing credits, I spoke to the people in the row in front of me, which is very unusual for me. They were total strangers. But they turned around and I said, it was a Marvel film. They should have known.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention was that I still need to know where my exits are. So I do sit near the back. The main exit is at the back of the cinema. And the way my eyes work, it's probably the optimal place for me to sit visually. Not as great audibly. So the seat that I was sitting at had a gap and spaces for wheelchairs, and then a couple of seats for carers of said people sitting in wheelchairs. So came in, and the final trailers before the main feature were showing, and then the door behind me opens. You know, there's a wall behind me, but the doors are behind that wall. And in trundles a carer with someone in a wheelchair, and positions them in with a space between me and the wheelchair, and then the carer sat next on the other side, and that's all fine. The movie started, and the carer's phone rang, and the carer proceeded to have a phone conversation with the person on the phone, quite loudly enough that you could identify that it was just a casual conversation. It wasn't work-related or anything like that. I'm getting really annoyed. And the poor person that he was supposedly caring was sort of slumping in his wheelchair more and more. By the middle of the film, his head was horizontal with the floor.
Oh.
So, first phone call, I thought, and he hung up.
Oh, no.
2 more calls. Yeah. And I was just absolutely livid. Don't like confrontations. I don't like talking to people much. But I finally got up out of my seat and walked behind the wheelchair to behind the carer. And I said, "Excuse me, you're very loud. Please stop." And he said, oh, sorry. And he said, I'll have to call you back. So that was it for the phone calls. I'm presuming he stuck his phone on mute, but he also stuck his phone on piercing bright display intensity, and proceeded to go through the rest of the movie with this spotlight beaming out of his phone for the rest of the movie. What do you do? You know, I mentioned it to the people at the concession stand, ticket office, because I used more of my points to grab myself a drink after the film. And they said, maybe if you'd come and, you know, I'd missed whole segments of the film already, so yeah, maybe I should have got up. But what were they going to do? Ask the carer to leave whilst his charge was still seated there, or ask them both to leave, or I don't know, it was just it was an ugly situation, and yeah, it reminded me again of how I love the feel of the cinema, but I prefer an empty cinema. And it was not empty enough. Maybe if I'd gone on the Wednesday rather than the Tuesday, I think Tuesdays are cheaper or something. But yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was you not talking about your week?
That was me not talking about my week. The other thing I should point out, again, trying to avoid spoilers here, it was interesting watching the people that I spoke to in the row in front of me at the end, watching them at the beginning of the film, getting more and more uncomfortable that maybe this isn't your typical Marvel movie that you can take a 6 and an 8-year-old to. Yeah, they got very squirmy because there were scenes involving children placed in quite distraught situations, and it wasn't your typical Marvel comic violence. There was some quite James Bond style fighting going on, and yes, I think they were squirming in their seats a bit and thinking, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have brought these kids along to that. Hey, I mean, I am making judgments here. This whole conversation, I've made a whole heap of judgments, and but
some of those judgments seem justified, at least.
Yeah. So we are not watching a Marvel film today.
No, we're not.
We are not. We are watching a Disney film, though.
Yes.
Well, the Disney Pixar film.
The vast and all-encompassing Disney umbrella.
Yes.
Yes, let's talk about late-stage capitalism.
Yes. I wonder what Uncle Walt would think of his great empire if he was alive today. I think he'd approve entirely. He was very much the Tony Stark of the... yes. Anyway, what are we watching?
We are watching...
Now that we're 20 minutes in.
Yeah, talking about late-stage capitalism, we are watching the film WALL-E.
We are. For those of you who are unaware of the plot of WALL-E, can you give us a brief summary of the back of the cardboard case of the DVD?
That we haven't brought out.
No.
And so I'm just reading the Disney Plus description.
Oh, good. That'll be shorter.
Yeah. After hundreds of lonely years doing what he was built for, the curious and lovable robot WALL-E discovers a new purpose in life when he meets a sleek robot named Eve. Join them and a hilarious cast of characters on a journey across the universe.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to join them in this hilarious... Okay, I have mentioned before that I do have my reservations.
Yes,
concerning this film.
I think
I'm hoping that I can overcome that.
I think after the break it will be me asking you the big question and not the other way round.
It may well be the case. Let's wait and see. We're going to press the button that streams the services through our pipes onto our screen.
Our thick pipes.
Yes. We're going to watch WALL-E and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Turn to side B, 700 years from now.
Indeed.
Just wait.
Well, VHS is still operating.
Yep. Just keep waiting. It's...
What, we're going to wait 700 years?
Oh, yeah.
You mongrel.
Yeah. So, what did you think?
I have notes.
You have notes.
I do.
I noticed.
I do have notes.
I enjoyed the film, but this isn't really about me at this point, is it?
It's not about you. No. No, look, I did enjoy it. Yet I was falling asleep in parts of it. But I don't think that's a reflection on the film. I think it's the reflection of the walk that I did today. All right. Yes, I did enjoy it, but I do still have my frustrations with it. I'm not sure whether you are familiar with the
Uncanny Valley?
No. well, yes, it is connected with that. But are you familiar with the bookshop sketch by Monty Python?
No, I don't think I'm familiar with that one.
Okay, a guy goes into a bookshop and asks the bookshop owner whether he has a certain book. So there is a line in it where he's after Olsen's Standard Book of British Birds. And he says, yes, I've got that. The expurgated version. What? The expurgated version? Yes, it's the one without the gannets. The one without the gannets? Yes, I don't like gannets. They wet their nests.
Right.
All through this skit, he's after various things, and he names something, and the bookshop owner says yes, and then qualifier that makes it no, he doesn't have it. So Olsen's Standard Book of British Birds without the gannets. I would love this film without the humans, and I think it is possible. I really do think it is possible. The U-turn that it does in my head from that first 40 minutes, which is just so theatrical and beautiful, and I will not fall into the trap of calling it a silent film, because that is an absolute insult to the sound design that has gone into that first 40 minutes and the music. It is such a... It's a world, a wonderful world that is built in there. And then you have the humans shoehorned into it. And yet on the ship, the scenes without the humans, you then get back to the relationship of... I just find the humans distracting, and maybe that's because I find humans distracting.
Humans are pretty distracting.
They are. Okay, so I guess it's like the Star Wars Jar Jar Binks edit, excised edit, where the film works entirely fine without Jar Jar Binks. I really would love an edit where it just doesn't work for me, and I cannot put my finger on why, but it just throws me out of what I had been loving in the first 40 minutes, and maybe that's why.
I think the film still would lose something if you took the humans out. is the thing.
I mean, certainly the plot
yes.
is such that they're wanting to get the humans back to Earth.
Yeah.
But I found my brain wandering as to how I would get away with it. And, Wally gets damaged, as he did in this, and the only way to save him is to get him back to Earth. And, you could have that ship being completely devoid of humans, and Eve's mission still being significant, and she comes back to an empty ship. That's all of the just like Wally is doing on Earth. He's still doing his job. You've got all these robots still doing their job on the Axiom. And I think the Uncanny Valley thing contributed to how it took me out of the moment, and yeah. Anyway, everyone's screaming at me, get over it. But for me, that is, for me, a flaw in the movie that takes away some of the magic that I was just enjoying for the first 40 minutes.
It's interesting, because early on in the development of the film, and this film had been in the works since 1994.
Okay.
So 14 years of thinking about the film led to the film.
Yep.
And initially, they were going to have the humans be so far gone they were the villains of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
Just entirely the villains of the piece.
Right.
When in this, the villain is over-globalization and late-stage capitalism and
Yep.
failing to keep the environment an environment.
Yes.
Which is quite a film to be made by such a conglomerate.
Yeah. So what do I think? For me, it is a beautiful, wonderful film that has flaws that not everyone agrees with. I have since heard that I'm not the only one who feels this way. And yeah, horses for courses, I guess.
I love it.
Good.
I love the film. It's got lots of very nice bits that fit together well for me.
Mm-hmm.
You set up things and you come back to them later.
Yep.
It meshes. It meshes like two slightly different robot hands probably shouldn't, but do anyway. The music is good.
Peter Gabriel's song right at the end is just a perler.
Yeah.
And yes, the music, that was the other bit that I had on my note as far as the auditory brilliance of the film. The soundtrack certainly had.
You have those opposing qualities.
Yeah.
We're on Earth following Wally, and the music is sort of perky and jump-starty and just sort of... And then Eve arrives, and suddenly we get lovely legatos and very smooth, rounded off, very very clean music.
Yeah.
And then those clash a bit for a while, and we move on to the Axiom, and it has that digital bloops and bleeps, and it's all just very nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
There was some beautiful attention to detail, like when Wally was when his shoes were worn out, and he measured his feet up against another identical machine to make sure that his new those tracks he could take those tracks and they would fit him.
Yeah.
The solving of the Rubik's Cube and the light bulb moment, those for me were the strengths. Where it was, again, I'm getting back to it, where it was just the robots.
You like character moments.
Yeah, and that's possibly what I found the humans characterless. And that's possibly what they were aiming for.
Yeah, I think that might be the point.
They distracted me so much that I had myself wondering, okay, you can see how they eat, everything's served up to them, but those suits, how do they go to the toilet?
Well, nobody goes to the toilet in film and television. Why
well,
why would it come up?
Anyway.
No, but everybody poops.
Everybody poops. All right.
And just visually, you can ignore the humans if you want, but I think it's a reasonable choice, given that Pixar hadn't quite worked out how to make humans look good yet. I mean, you wind back to Toy Story, and there's some ghastly visages.
What was his name?
Sid.
Sid. Yes.
Just sunken eyes and but they have gotten better at it over time.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay that the humans are like this. Also, it's been 700 years and they've been in microgravity, but it's okay. And it is interesting seeing a civilization collapse like that.
Yeah.
Physically physically collapse into moving chairs.
Yes.
Just the design of Earth as a wreck. Just that image of the by and large Ultra store just stretching off into the distance sticks with me.
Yeah, and the mountains and mountains of first man-made, but then robot-made mountains of rubbish that
it just piles everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we move on to sleeker designs with Eve and the ship that Eve arrives and leaves on.
Yep.
And then Axion, very clean lines and very, very rigid in a way that the piles of trash were not.
Yes.
You know, you've got to follow lines of light on the ground, and everything's very shiny. And
as soon as something does go off the line, chaos.
Yeah, chaos, and immediately more lines are brought out just to try and solve it, and maybe it gets solved.
Yeah.
Maybe it takes a little bit.
It's interesting. I will add a link. It reminded me very much of, now what's his name? Tom, the one who talks about stuff. Tom, who talks about stuff. Is it? No, Scott.
Tom Scott?
Tom Scott. There we go. We got there eventually. Where he visits a automated supermarket online order where all of these robots
working in sync.
In sync, yeah. It's an absolute hive mind, and it's just it's horrifying to watch, but also awe-inspiring at the same time. But everything has to keep in line.
Yeah, and if anything goes wrong, there are processes in place.
Yeah, the human ducks out.
I can see why you might not be as infused with this film as I am.
Look, it sounds like I'm hating on it.
No, I disagree with that, but you can explain why.
No, it still is a thing of beauty and wonder and awesomeness, with a taste of garlic in it that shouldn't be there.
You just wish it was a slightly different film.
I do. And that's possibly wrong. That's not how things work. We should respect the producers and the directors and the writers and the writers who rewrote the bits that ended up being the film that it was. So I will respect the committee.
I should say, there was a bit more humans in it, closer to the release, but I think they cut some amount because they wanted to have a bit more with just robots.
Yep.
So it's better for you than it could have been.
Now with less humans.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything else you wish to add to Wally?
No, I think I'm done.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll move on then.
The following segment is sitting on my head. Please get off my head.
What are we moving on to?
That's a great question. I've received appreciative but vague comments.
Good.
But that's about it on my end. Thank you for your continued support.
Absolutely.
We do appreciative comments for your appreciative comments and your continued listening.
Yes, and we apologise for letting you down last week.
We did need the week off.
We did need the week off. I did have someone contact me and ask, Is everything all right? And,
Well,
and I reassured them. So yes.
Depends on your perspective, really.
It does, doesn't it? We have it with a few less humans. That's what. No. that was meta.
Oh, dear.
That was yes.
Oh, dear.
Good. All right. Anything else?
No,
that blip of a segment.
That was all I had. I don't know if anything came up on Facebook this week. It might have.
I am not aware of.
Well, in the past fortnight, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm not aware of.
Helen, you'll be happy to know that I intend to do less baseball. You would not have heard last week because it was heavily edited around.
It was the one without the gannets.
Yeah, heavily edited around. I lost it. I completely lost the plot. There was a bad baseball segment, and you will never hear it.
No, I promise I will not release that footage in any way, shape, or form.
If baseball ever does come up, it'll either be because it's become far less complicated to follow, which could go either way. End of the year is coming up, end of next week, so who knows? Who knows? And then it's going on a baby grand siesta, but
good.
Who knows? But it probably just in passing from now on.
Yep. And I will try to talk less about visits to cinemas as well.
Well, that was good chat.
Yeah, that was good chat. Speaking of good chats, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Pick a film for next week so we can go to bed.
It's your turn.
It is. Is it my turn?
It is.
It is my turn.
Yes, remember I said it's my turn, so I will bite the bullet and let's tackle Wally. Which means that you had 2 weeks to come up with something other than a random one.
Yeah, I feel like I had an idea at some point.
Good.
But then 2 weeks passed.
Oh.
And, my memory, your memory.
My memory.
Our memories, not.
No.
Not.
No.
Just not.
They're just not there.
And so, I'm going to be a coward and take the easy way out.
Fair enough.
Which is to take this iPad that I have in my hands and sort of do that to it. Yeah, there we go. Okay. The film that I have selected...
Yes.
Stars Johnny Depp.
Right.
And Kate Winslet. And Julie Christie and Dustin Hoffman.
Oh.
It's from 2004, so it's in an old style classification label.
Yes.
PG for mature themes.
Okay.
Those actors, award-winning stars, as the description says, bring to life the story of a man who awakened the world's imagination and the people who inspired him. Do you know what the film is yet?
It's not with him playing an author?
Yes.
He's playing an author who wrote Peter Pan?
Yes.
And it is called... Nah, can't remember.
Finding Neverland.
Finding Neverland.
Which is,
good,
according to the description, is a tale about James M. Barrie's extraordinary journey to create the classic Peter Pan from his first inspiration to the night of the play's premiere. Because originally...
Yes.
It was a play.
It was indeed a play, which I have seen performed
on
stage. And it is, I believe, a cursed play. The number of Peter Pans that have injured themselves swinging from ropes hung from the theatre roof. Yes, I have seen it performed on stage. I've only got very vague memories of it. But do remember shouting out, I do believe in fairies.
I do.
I do believe in fairies. Right.
Yeah.
Finding Neverland.
Indeed.
Did I have that marked as one that I wanted to revisit as well?
Question.
Because I've got a
No.
feeling...
No. It's marked as unseen by triplets.
Right. Yes. That tag has possibly not been updated terribly well, but I do believe I do believe they
Have
not seen that. So, Finding Neverland, it was Dustin Hoffman that threw me, because I do not remember him being in it.
Right.
Freddie.
Yes, there is Freddie Highmore in this.
Highmore, yes. Certainly more memorable than Dustin Hoffman. Okay. I have nothing more to say about that. Do you have anything more to say about that?
No, I think we can wrap up.
We can. We hope that you can join us next week. We hope that we can be here next week. And the wheels don't fall off again. When we watch Finding Neverland. And until then, we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
You have been listening to Cellulose Free. Your hosts were Colin, who produces and edits the show, and Thomas, who makes the artwork and music. Cellulose Free is recorded in the Deranged Cat Studios in scenic Tasmania, Australia. We keep track of our extensive physical media collection through My Movies, which we highly recommend. You can find links to that, as well as other places you can find us, in the show notes. Cellulose Free is a Hi Hello production.
Now, I'm not sure if Finding Neverland is the oldest film on our shelf with Freddie Highmore in it. Because also in 2004, Five Children and It.
Yes.
And...
I'll edit that out.
Yeah, you will.
Because we've finished anyway.
Yeah, we're finished anyway.
I'm tingling like a tingle.
That's very helpful. I click through to the connected movie for Five Children and It, and it says, details, Australia, release date, the 1st of January, 1753.
1753? Wow.
Such an old film.
I'm just imagining the what they used for the light source in the projector. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, I get the feeling that might not be accurate.
Oh. Can you get that fixed, Thomas? Can you... We're talking IMDb here, are we? Or was it...
No, that was in there, but it might be because it's pulling from IMDb, and it might be wrong on IMDb. I'm just looking up that now. This is a thrilling stinger to Finding Neverland.
Hey, did you hear that in Finland they stick barcodes on the sides of their navy vessels?
Right.
You didn't hear that? Yeah, it's so that when they return to port they can Scandinavian